Right, my name's Connor. I'm here to talk about the factors that affect football in sport. Right, first one's drugs. Drugs can be anything from cocaine to performance enhancing drugs which maybe give you more stamina, more power, everything. An example of a football player taking drugs is conor. I think he got banned for 6 months, which obviously that has a big effect on the younger generations looking up to your football players and seeing. But also I think that football players do have an easier chance in getting a hold of drugs because they've got the money, and most of them do get it for free. Another example is Gary O'Connor, and he was found with cocaine in his system as well, but he was doing it for a lot longer than what people were expecting. He got banned for 2 years. But I think it's a bit quite unfair on Gary O'Connor. He got banned for 2 years in conor and he got banned for 6, which I think it is quite a sad thing. And also Gary O'Connor did get his contract terminated, which is also not good for him. Moving on. Politics. Politics is all about funding in football. You know, if there's no money in football, there's no football. I think in politics they need to start putting money into the lower leagues. So, you know, like your Saturday league footballs, your Sunday league footballs, because quite frankly, there's not enough money in the younger part of football. Like the way you start off, you know, your talent, they don't raise talent. You just got your players that have it, players that don't have it. They get put onto one side. The good players get put onto the other side. There's no way in developing them, which that's why I think the England squad's not as good, and English football is downhill, and that's why I think many foreign players are in the English game, because they bring more excitement into football than what it being an all English league. Deviance, there's match fixing, there's also diving, which Suarez, Ashley Young, players like that really have a big name for in diving and handling the football. You know, Suarez against Mansfield, you know, players like that and it's against Suarez in the World Cup against Ghana. It's mainly about cheating and ways to get it out of the game. You know, what did they do now? They just fine, they give you red cards. I think one of the big ways to stop cheating, like diving and handling the ball, is maybe deduct 3 points, start taking measurements, you know, seeing how much they do it in a game, and really just hitting the teams so the teams start telling the players not to dive. Because I think banning players, you know, they're not bothered, they don't really care. Maybe bringing a sin bin into the game, you know, so if you dive and you get caught diving, you get handling the ball, you sit like 10-15 minutes of the game in a sin bin, which I think that would stop players as well, and it also takes points off teams that get cheated, so it's not a good thing. And then you've got match fixing, where basically a player will deliberately do something in a game to get himself, or not get himself, but like, you know, someone will come up to him and say, you know, I'm going to put this amount of money on this bet, do this for me. And that's mainly Joseph Yobo was a player. A man put, I think you know, I think it's about £60,000 on Joseph Yobo getting a red card in a certain minute of the game, and he went and did it, and that man gave him £60,000. Again, ways to stop that in the game. Well, I think betting now has become a huge part of football. There's a massive part of football where and that's the reason why this has been brought into the game. You know, your Paddy Powers, all of them lot that really have brought betting into the game. And racism, this is a big one in football. You know, there's so many talking points about racism, because racism's been brought up in football on many occasions. You know, in La Liga BBVA, Danny Alves got a banana thrown at him, and he responded in probably the perfectest way. You know, he ate the banana and carried on playing and just brushed it off his shoulder. And obviously, that fan later in the thing he got, you know, he's been banned from going to football games. And you've also got John Terry and Anton Ferdinand, their situation. Again, John Terry, lucky enough, you know, they seen it. They kind of, in a way, they obviously didn't actually hear him say it, but they read his lips slowly. But there's also other ways. They've got like stop racism, all of them, like charities and stuff. Well, I don't want to say so much charities, but people that are trying to get racism out of the game, and just because it's a bad thing, but racism's never really going to be kicked out of football. I think that's going to be a big part of football, which it is sad, because racism is a big thing, and it's just not. It's not nice for a player to be racially abused. I think all ethnicities and everything should be brought into football, and they should play as a sport and together. And we've got gender. Football, gender-wise, is huge. You know, women to men. You know, men get through like where you people like Wayne Rooney gets £300,000 a week. A football player, a woman's football player, will probably only get £100,000 a year, and that's the top flight of it as well. That's, you know, your women's Super League. You've also got linesmen and like referees. They've only just slowly started to bring a women's like linesmen actually into the game, which I think, personally, in my opinion, I think you should keep men's linesmen and all of that, because it just keeps the game. But that's a bit I don't know. And then obviously like, women should just ref women's games, and also football in women's is they don't get paid as much. You know, when footballers, you know, when they win the men footballers when they win the Champions League, they get 60 million, and it's just pathetic when you think about it. And women that win like the Champions League, they only get about 200k. I think the main reason what's happened with men's football is sponsors. They've really took off in it, and money has just become ridiculous within football now. Women, you know, football's not seen as it's not a feminine sport. It's more of a manlier sport. That's why I think women's football really hasn't took off in a way that men's football has. Healthy initiatives. This is mainly just about trying to get kids involved at a young age, so they don't become. You know, it's just mainly about participation, getting kids to enjoy sport and just stay off the street, stop causing trouble. And you know, there's a sponsor. It's called Change for Life. It's a project basically that they would try to prevent obesity, bad behaviour, bad eating habits. You know, that they just try and get younger people to get involved in sport, and it's just a way they just give kids to do something. It's just something to do, really. I know in health initiatives as well, like people talk about junk food and salads and all that, but a salad costs you $3.20. Wow, junk food only costs you $1.50. So it kind of, you know, it just reiterates itself. And then we're going on to commercialism and globalism. Commercialism is all about sales. It's all about promoting the sport. So basically sponsorships. You know, like back 20-30 years ago, you know, you couldn't watch Real Madrid versus Barcelona. You couldn't watch the El Clasico on TV. Because Sky Sports weren't really a big thing, you know, it didn't really bring out to it. And then obviously you've also got shirt sales, you know, when James Rodriguez went to Real Madrid from Monaco, I think he pulled up about £60 million worth of sales shirts, which again, it's just purely sponsorships, it's promoting that player. And also you've got football boots, players wear type, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, where she used to wear like Mercurials and all them. And younger generations look at him and think, oh, I want them pair of football boots, you know, he's wearing them, Ronaldo wears them, you know, I want to be the next Ronaldo and all that. And that's mainly what commercialism is all about. Globalism, it's about taking the game to different countries. So back when the World Cup started, England, they didn't travel to the first World Cup in Uruguay because, well, it was pathetic back then, you know, it had cost them a lot of money to go over there. And basically now, you know, you get to see the World Cup, every country is involved in the World Cup and all of that, and that's basically what globalism is about. It's about bringing the whole world together to play the game that we call football. And it's just about getting more teams involved, you know, like your San Marinos, like no one heard of them. You know, they're obviously not the best team, but, you know, they've been brought into it, and like your American teams and all them, all this purely just about bringing them all together and playing football. And you've got child protection. That's just about basically your coaches, you know, they all need CRB checks, so basically to make sure they've got no history of violence, you know, paedophilia, all of that stuff. It's just basically making sure that that coach is legit and he's not out there to hurt anyone, to damage anything. He's purely there just to get football, you know, get younger children to play football and basically have a good time. And it's just that's pretty much mainly what it's all about. Then religion and culture. Religion is a barrier in football because it's basically people will get put down for stereotypes. So like you would say Indians, you know, they should play cricket, keep it to that. That's where their main sport is. Blacks, basketball. I would say white people maybe golf or something like that. They're like your stereotypes. Religion also, like for example, a Muslim, you know, they have to wear them, whatever they call it, the burqas or whatever, they've got to put them on and they can't take them off. And in football, you know, something like that, basketball, they'll have to be told to take them off, and that's part of their religion, so they have to keep them on. And then you've also got like football boots and shin pads, you know, women, they're not allowed to take off their thing, so they won't be able to put like your football and your shin pads on. and that's ways to stop it from. And then obviously culture, like I said, going on to your stereotypes, it's all about different cultures not feeling as though they can play that sport because they're not part of the so-called stereotype players. While football, again, your footballs, your basketballs, it's all cultures. Everybody brings it and everyone brings the game, and it's basically you just got to stop, really. Stop stereotyping people. And then education and sport, that's mainly about school. That's mainly where education and sport starts. You've got normally, your average 2 hours a week, PE, physical education, and then it's like when you start to choose your options, as they call it, where you want to go on, you get to go into further study in in sport. So you do your BTEC level 2, your BTEC level 3, your subsidiary, your BTEC level 3 diploma, and so on, and then you keep going on, and then you go on to university and choose your specific sport or your specific thing you want to go into in the future. And that's it.
So which one do you think is the worst aspect in sport?
I think the worst aspect has got to be racism. That's one of the big things that football really needs to get rid of. It's deviance or deviance or racism. They're the two big ones that sport needs to get rid of. They're just not good. They just purely bring a downer on the game. They gives off negatives to the game, and when really you just want positives, because it's football. It's just about playing and enjoying sport, and so yeah, not good.